Hello, my name is Alan, and today I am facilitating a session of a game that is currently in development by Cloven Pine Games, Checkpoint Midnight. This is a game of supernatural espionage set in post-war Vienna. So we're playing in 1948. Sorry, turn my phone off. And this game is organized as part of the Gauntlet RPG community's online gaming calendar. If you don't know about the Gauntlet, if you type Gauntlet-RPG into any decent search engine, you will find us and all the things we do. I will plug one thing about the Gauntlet this week, and that is that starting tonight in my time in the UK is the start of the second Gauntlet Community Open Gaming Weekend. This runs from today through until, I think, depending on where you are in the world, because we are a global community, I think sometime on Monday in the Far East. And it's an opportunity to come and play with the Gauntlet just to see what we're like and to get a feel for what the Gauntlet is like. So I hope if you haven't had a chance to do that, you might check out Gauntlet Community Open Gaming, which will give you an entree into what it's like to play with the Gauntlet, which is great. My name is Alan, and my pronouns are he, him. In a moment, I'll introduce the characters, but first a little bit about the game. We have played one session. We had a bit of a hiatus last time because of sickness and illness, but we're back today. We have a third player we hope is going to join us shortly. So this is a game about supernatural espionage. Last time, we introduced our characters, and they did a little bit of a side job. And today we'll see where that takes us. So we're playing with safety tools. The safety tools, the players know about these. We're playing with lines, veils, the X card, and an open door. If you know, X card visual is best for me. I did not very good at nudging the chat sometimes. But we are currently playing with lines on sexual assault and violence, harm to children, harm to animals, peril to pregnant women or infants, and details of Nazi atrocities from World War II, because we are playing in the direct aftermath of that, and we want to treat the material sensitively. Inevitably, some of those things conceivably could be implied, but we will do our best to steer clear of them. Those are things that won't appear in the fiction. We're also playing with a range of veils. These are things that could appear in the fiction, but if they do, we will draw a discrete veil across them. We won't see the detail on screen. And currently we are playing with veils on consensual sex, domestic violence, drug abuse, torture by PCs or by NPCs, explicit racism or explicit homophobia or transphobia. So that stuff won't crop up. And so that is the kind of framework in which we're playing. And with that in mind, then let me move on to ask the players just to say hello, introduce themselves, tell us something they want to tell us about themselves, and then tell us something about the character they're playing. So can I start, Will, by saying to you, say hello and tell us something about Pearl?
Sure. So I'm playing Pearl, who her pronouns are she, her, and she is a construct, which there are several types of constructs in this game, but she happens to be a golem who's brought to life by a mystic piece of scripture, and so she is in the form of a famous Austrian statue. And she wears, clothing that helps kind of disguise that when she's out among people. And she's just very, very fascinated by what it means to be human. And she collects interesting things from her encounters with humans, particularly hair accessories. She's fascinated with hair accessories, although she doesn't have hair per se, but she has the appearance of hair. And and she also is a very, very bad liar.
And a bit of a soft spot for kids, I seem to remember from our first session.
Correct.
Okay, and then can I say, Max, would you like to say hello? Tell us anything you want to about yourself, and then we will hear something. Oh, sorry, wrong screen form. We will hear something about Nico Fuchs.
Yeah, I'm Max. Hey, I'll be playing Nico Fuchs, which is German for fox. Sounds a little... I noticed after I chose a name that if you pronounce it a certain way, it might be problematic, but it's Fox. Nico is a Vetma, which is a kind of blood mage, blood witch in a way. So I have ways of tracking people, gathering information about people. I'm able to make pacts with people about that can curse them, possibly if they break certain pacts or deals. Yeah, and we didn't really get into the background of him much. We know that he is from a family that practices this kind of magic, and that is something that gets passed on from generation to generation, it seems like. Yep.
And as I remember, he was the chosen member of his generation, so his siblings did not get this power. Have I got that right?
Yes.
Okay. And so these two characters last time managed to lift a briefcase from a Soviet official in the international. The core of Vienna is an international city. It is patrolled by 4 men in a jeep, a Brit, an American, a Russian, and a Frenchman. They police the center of Vienna. The rest of Vienna is split into zones controlled by one of the 4 victorious Allied countries. So you managed to switch the briefcase, and this was a briefcase being exchanged with someone called Gaspard de Jeune, someone that Nico has encountered before, and there is some friction between them because of an op that went wrong in the past, we think. So Nico, I think you have the briefcase.
Yes, I think that's where we left off.
Yeah. And the other things that you collected during this encounter in Vienna was that Pearl has come away with 2 children. An 8-year-old boy and his younger sister, who's probably about 4 or 5. They are orphans. They've been living in the rubble of a bombed out section of Vienna. And the section of Vienna that they were living in, the building that they were living in, was where an unexploded bomb was discovered last time. And so against some opposition from the other member of the team, Chaz Hamilton, who I think has stormed off in a huff. Pearl has taken these 2 children under her wing, and I think I'd like to start with that, Pearl, because I think I want to know what your plan is, if such a thing exists.
Yeah. Well. I think that's probably the short answer is, Pearl probably isn't fully thinking this through, but she is going to lean down to these children and say, so where do you think you might like to live?
And the spokesman, who's the little boy, did we name these kids? I don't think we did we?
I don't recall naming them. We probably should, though.
Yeah. So yeah, give me a name for the little boy, and I'll do the little girl.
How about Franz?
Okay, Franz and his younger sister Maria. Franz, we reckon, is about 8. He could be a bit older and just a little bit underweight because of lack of diet, conceivably. And Maria is probably about 5, shall we say. So Franz looks up at you. He's been holding your hand. He's worried about you because your hand is so cold. And so he looks up at you and he says, "Anywhere that's warm, miss."
Warm. Yes. Well, we should get away from here. Maybe let's start with that. Well, come along.
And yeah, they will come along. Him holding your hand, Maria holding his hand. What do we know about where you live? I'm just skimming the character sheet. I haven't quite worked my way around it yet. Yeah, where do you live?
We didn't really define it, but I think in my head canon, I kind of had the idea that Pearl probably has a place where she stashes her things, but then she'll just become inanimate somewhere, right, as a statue.
Yeah, I mean, it says here an apartment you're technically squatting in, which to the landlord looks like an apartment he hasn't rented yet that has this weird statue in it.
Yep.
And boxes of rubbish, inverted commas. Does that
Yep.
does that fly? Yeah, so that's where you shelter. So Nico, I think when we left it, you were heading in one direction, and Pearl and Chaz were heading in a different direction, is my vague recollection. Is there a rendezvous point that you would set up for after this little bit of business, Nico?
I think we probably would have one, yeah. Do we have like technically in the game you have the cafe, right?
Exactly. So I suppose what I'm teasing out here is the rendezvous at Checkpoint Midnight, the cafe, or somewhere else?
I think that would make sense if that's our base of operations. You were saying though that we weren't going to play with that specifically, though, right? Or did you mean for the first session?
Oh, for the first session, I thought that we would introduce Checkpoint Midnight this session and create it. Nice. So in which case, Pearl, that's the rendezvous. Is that where you go, or?
Trying to think if Pearl's compassion will sort of outweigh her better discretion, right?
I mean, what about engaging with something like Get Spooky, which seems to be a kind of generic way of dealing with complicated stuff? When you get spooky by letting out your inhuman side, to intimidate someone, reshape your environment, or overcome an obstacle. Now, is this an obstacle that needs overcoming?
Yeah. Maybe Pearl could do that by finding a place where there are some children and getting spooky to sort of encourage someone to take on the care of these children.
I mean, because we're all learning this game together. So as I look at the other basic moves, there's one called Offer Comfort. When you offer comfort to someone willing to listen, roll plus dreamer, and NPCs will credit you for supporting them. Is there a basic move that you would like to trigger, I suppose, is where I'm going with this, to try and help Pearl decide what happens next?
Yeah. So I think Pearl would, I think she'll be walking along with these children, right? And she will be looking for perhaps a a school or a some adults with more than one child, right? Wherever she can sort of see someone like that.
As you make your way through this old part of Vienna, you will see a sign for the International Red Cross.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah. And there's a slight queue of people. People are queuing to find people they've lost, to register people who are missing, to get food aid, etc. So is that a queue that Pearl and the children are going to join?
I think so, yes.
So as you get nearer the front of this queue, how concerned are you that someone might, because there's probably a man or a woman in uniform, taking down details. How concerned are you about that?
Somewhat, for sure. I think maybe as it gets closer, more concerned, right? And maybe I'll start to look around at the people nearby in line to see if maybe there's someone that, I don't know what this means, but there's this expression of people having kind eyes, and maybe I can sort out someone like that in the line.
That does sound like you are taking time to decipher a person or situation. Say if you're using natural or supernatural sense. If natural, roll plus operator. If supernatural, roll plus fable. So you tell me.
I think supernatural. Yeah. Just sort of that sense of what it is that the creators want, right? What is it that they're looking for? She's got to have some sort of internal sense of that, I think, from being created, right?
Yes, I think that's fair. And I'm just wondering whether you have a move called this thing called a soul. When you explain how someone exemplifies what is unique and fascinating about humanity, you could then roll with advantage to offer comfort. I kind of think that I would allow you to roll with advantage for the next move, if relevant. So if you were to, what I'm thinking is you spot perhaps a man. He looks, he's probably 40 something, and he's there with pictures of two children. Now, as you kind of squint at this, I think it's not these two children.
Right.
But if you were to approach him, and when you explain to someone how someone exemplifies what is unique and fascinating about humanity, ... what would we see happen?
Hello, sir. I see you seem distraught.
Yes, my children. I'm trying to find my children. Have you seen my children? I've tried all the other offices. This is the last one.
Oh, well, let me have a look. Well, I'm so sorry, sir, but I do not believe I have seen them. But I have seen many children, and some of them very good children. Some of them have lost parents, much like you have lost your children, it would seem. I do wish you all the luck in finding your lost loved ones. Is your partner here with you?
She too is lost.
The world can be a lonely place, can it not? You have my deepest condolences.
I hope that perhaps they're with her and we will be reunited one day. And then he gets to the front of the queue, and he goes up, and you see him have the conversation with the woman in uniform at the desk, and he's eagerly explaining the situation, and she's working her way down a long list of people who have been found, some with pictures attached, and then she looks up and she says, and you see his shoulders slump, and he turns with a tear in his eye, and he walks down the steps from this building, looking broken. What do you do, Pearl?
Franz. Maria.
Yes, miss?
This man, he is as sad, I believe, in some ways as you. Look how he feels the loss of his own children. Perhaps run up, give him a hug, make him feel better. What do you think?
And Franz looks up at you and says, do you think he has somewhere warm to live, miss?
He might.
And he says, come, Maria. And he goes over, and you see him kind of tug on the back of the man's coat. What do you do, Pearl, at this point? Do you wait or do you go?
I think she might move a little bit discreetly away, right? But still try and keep an eye while maybe, hopefully, being out of sight.
I think what I want to do is kind of retrospectively here have us determine whether that works as well as you hope. And I think probably it's about offer comfort. Actually, when you offer comfort to someone willing to listen. So you're rolling with advantage. So you're rolling 3 dice and taking the top 2, plus Dreamer, just to see whether you have judged this situation accurately, given that you are trying to decipher the world around you. Yeah, okay. Does that seem fair?
Yep.
Go for it.
All right. Plus Dreamer, that is a 10.
Well. So on a 10, take leverage over the person you comfort. So I think what I think we can reasonably draw is that goes well. You see the man turn round, look at the children, and he bursts into tears, and he falls to his knees and he hugs them, and you see them going off. But I think that you will recognize that man again. And if you want to put him on your character sheet as Franz and Maria's foster father and give yourself leverage over him, that would be fine. I can't for the moment think what use that might be, but I think it's worth trying. Yeah?
Yep.
Jim, thank you. I'm sorry if we got confused over time zones. It's always tricky, but really glad that you've been able to join us. What I'll do is I want to see what Nico's going to do, and then I'll come back to you, Jim, ask you to introduce yourself and tell us something about Chaz, and we'll roll on from there. Okay? So, Nico, you're heading back to Checkpoint Midnight, which is supposed to be where you're meeting up. What delays you?
I mean, there was a bomb threat nearby, right? I think maybe maybe to get to checkpoint midnight would be passing through where the bomb threat would be. Maybe they kind of blocked off that part of the city for now, or regular roads towards that direction. Maybe there's some kind of canal or something like that I can get through, like a secret way to get into the different district or something like that. I don't know where exactly the checkpoint is on the map. I think we were in the international zone before, right? You're muted, Alan.
Thank you. I did have some thoughts about that, and I can't now remember where I put it. I can't even remember where I put a map at one point. Did I put a map? I thought I did put a map in here.
In resources, yeah.
Ah, there it is, yes. So if I think that the darker shading on this map is the older bits of the town. So I'm thinking the checkpoint midnight is somewhere in here, because there's a network of alleyways running through these couple of blocks. It's within what was the old city wall. So that struck me as an old part of town, and therefore probably somewhere like checkpoint midnight would have been long established. Does that seem reasonable? And I think that I said that you were down by the river, by the canal, and perhaps therefore, in order to get back to checkpoint midnight, you have to cross over the canal and then come back to avoid the bit of this canal frontage that's been sealed off because of this unexploded bomb. And I can tell you that across that canal is part of the Soviet zone. So that would seem like a reasonable delay. And so as you head across the bridge here, there will be a Soviet checkpoint on the other side of the canal. So how do you approach that, Nico?
Thinking, would I have like fake papers or something like that?
Well, certainly you could well be traveling under assumed name, and these are the names by which you know one another. There is a move called maintain your cover.
Okay. Where's that? There we go.
When you put up a front to maintain your cover in the face of scrutiny or ideological challenge, roll plus the relevant label. So I guess that the relevant label depends on how you are covering this. You know, is this smooth argument? Is this using some kind of supernatural power? Or well, you tell me. How do you approach this?
Yeah, I think smooth talking them is not going to work with Nico. I think we got to go with a Star Wars move here. These are not the droids you're looking for. I think it's even the hand movement just to make it ridiculous. Okay, that would be plus Fable then, I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. That is not good. That's a 6.
Oh my. Okay. So this Russian looks at you and in badly accented German says, "What did you say?"
Well,
show me your papers. Show me your papers.
I show him my fake papers again.
And he's looking at this, and he's calling an officer over who has a clipboard, and then he says, "What's in the briefcase?"
Documents to be delivered to the consulate.
The Soviet consulate,
of course.
But you're not on the list. Show me. Open the briefcase. Now at this point, I don't think any of you have looked in the briefcase yet, have you?
No.
Okay. So what do you do, Nico? Do you hand over the briefcase?
Definitely not. I think I'll open it, but I'll keep it in my hands. Unless he's reaching for it, then I have a different plan.
I think on a 6, he's expecting you to hand over the briefcase.
Okay, I think then this is going bad so quickly.
I did check with Alexi. You do mark XP on a failure, so it's not a complete failure.
Yeah, the question is, I have Soviet documents in the Soviet zone, and they think I shouldn't have them probably. I think I will kind of look behind him, like as if I'm looking at something dangerous or distracting in some way, and I'm hoping he will turn around for a second. Just a second would be enough for me. Is there like a distraction, or I don't know, what kind of moves do we have here?
Yeah,
distract or trick.
Maybe I'm
distract or trick is a move. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds perfect. Let's go
roll
with
plus operator. So what's your operator?
I'm trying to find it. Hang on. 2.
Oh, well,
that's not too bad. That's an 8.
Okay, so on a 7 to 9, choose 2. So there are 4 bullet points down there.
Mm-hmm.
Choose 2 of them, and my assumption is that on a hit they are fooled, at least for a moment, and then you choose 2, giving me 2 to play with in terms of what might be a consequence. So which 2 do you choose?
I think I'm taking you create an opportunity for yourself or another, granting advantage, and you definitely keep them confused for more than a moment or 2.
Okay, so you don't have to throw someone else under a bus. So so what I'm going to suggest is that they turn and they see some innocent civilian that they think that you've made some signal to. And the officer shouts in Russian to 2 of the other guards in the vicinity, him, get him. And they tackle this guy, and that's the nature of the distraction that creates the advantage that you have. Does that seem reasonable?
Sure, yeah.
They are distracted, you have a bit of time, and you have advantage. What do you do with it?
Is there another? How many guards are there? Like, can I make a run for it, or kind of duck into an alley or something?
When you use an opportunity to get in or get out of a place, say if you're breaking or sneaking. So I think this is probably not sneaking, to be honest. This sounds like a kind of run for that alley beside that pile of rubble beyond the checkpoint.
Yeah, but that's plus weapon. That's not going to go well. I think I gotta use my Vetma move. Last session I marked Gaspar, and I have the ability to switch places with somebody I marked before.
Oh my! Before you ignore that, you do have advantage currently, so you would be rolling 3 dice and taking the top 2. I just want to make sure that you kind of twig that.
That might blow things a little bit even more out of proportion.
Okay, don't let me influence you.
No, I mean my magic. Yeah, that's true. Let's go with advantage. What could go wrong? Oh, that went pretty well, actually. That's a 10 total.
Well, there you go. That just shows how well this system works, doesn't it? So on a 10, you make a break for it. On a hit, you make it. But on a 7 to 9, you leave something important behind or take something difficult with you, and you would mark express. On a 10 plus, you are away clean. But then the officer is where do you go? Where do you go? And some poor civilian is on the ground being handcuffed. But you have escaped on your way to checkpoint midnight. Jim, let's say hello. Jim, do you want to just introduce yourself, say hello, and tell us something about Chaz, and then we'll integrate you back into the tale?
Yeah, sure. I'm Jim Crocker. Folks that know me from outside the Gauntlet may know me because I've been a retailer of role-playing games for many, many years. I run and play a whole lot on the Gauntlet. Alan and I have played a whole bunch together. I'm really excited to be in this game. I use he, him pronouns, but if you're using they, them more generically, that's totally fine with me too. I'm on Twitter at Jim Likes Games, just like it sounds, all one word. And I've got a website, jimlikesgames.com, if you're curious about finding out about more about what I'm doing, you know, with all the gaming stuff that I'm doing. So I am playing, let me make sure, let me take a look at my character here and make sure I know what I got going on. I'm playing Charles Chaz Hamilton. I'm a dodger, which means I'm dodgy. I'm a, you know, like maybe a slightly disreputable character, a former American GI, working as a, you know, working in the motor pool. You know, I enjoy nice cars and things like that. And while we were, you know, following the fighting men across Germany, and a old woman pressed a harmonica into my hand, and I realized that when I played it, I could summon flocks of birds and kind of control birds and things like that, and decided that I really liked it here in Europe, much more so than returning back home to Chicago. So I have ended up here in Vienna, kind of as a freelancer, doing, you know, whatever jobs I can get my hands on. Yeah, there's my nice car, my little roadster there. I carry around a this cool scrimshaw handled straight razor, and there's my harmonica, and a nice little red box there.
Thank you, Chaz. So the way we played it, just to cover till you could join us, Jim, was that you and Pearl had a slight altercation, might be too strong a word, but some kind of disagreement over the fate of a couple of orphans. Mm-hmm. So Pearl has taken the orphans off, and what we imagined was that Chaz had gone a different way.
Yep,
just
sure.
To, you know, put that behind it. Mm-hmm. So we also decided that the rendezvous for you all is supposed to be checkpoint midnight. Mm-hmm. You are on the right side of the where the MPs are now, you know, setting up barriers to stop to get away from this bomb site. Mm-hmm. So you could go to checkpoint midnight, or you could follow Pearl, or you could do something else.
I'm going to assume Pearl is okay, and that she's fine on her own. Max got the briefcase and went off. I'm just, if the goal is to rendezvous at checkpoint midnight, then I will mosey on to checkpoint midnight, making my way across town.
Well, that's a great segue, I think, because that does take us into checkpoint midnight, this cafe that is the neutral ground, if you will, for the supernatural espionage community in Vienna, or maybe just the supernatural community in Vienna. And it does give us a chance to do some world creation with checkpoint midnight. So this would be a good time for me to ask you all to check out the checkpoint moves tab, because we need to do a bit of work on checkpoint midnight. And the first thing we have to do is to determine collectively what is the key resource that checkpoint midnight offers. Because besides the cafe where you can meet contacts, choose one additional resource in the checkpoint. You can take on missions later to expand the checkpoint resources. And the options in this version of the rules so far are a library, which offers the move Pour Over Arcana, training grounds, offering you a chance to hone your skills, or emergency room, offering you somewhere where you can undergo treatment. So let's go across the character keeper, starting with Nico. Do you have strong feelings about one of those?
Well, considering how things have been going, I'm leaning towards emergency room, but I'm good with anything pretty much. I don't have a strong preference there.
Okay, what about Pearl?
I think I'd be most interested in the library, but again, it's sort of like Nico. I don't think there's a really. I mean, they all sound very interesting. So,
So so far we have vague interest in a library or an emergency room. I'm not sure whether the emergency room was a serious suggestion, but Chaz, what does Chaz think the checkpoint has to offer?
I mean, if I were being, difficult, I would say training grounds. But so every time I've played in the past, it's always been a library. So I am actually interested in what a checkpoint midnight that has an emergency room as as the facility that is front and center looks like. Yeah, sorry, and that's serious. I'm not, yeah.
So Nico, Pearl, an emergency room. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah. Works for me.
Okay, so I will mark that. Okay. And this offers the move undergo treatment. When you undergo surgery or other treatment in the checkpoint's off the books medical wing, roll with questions, and we'll come to how you do that in a bit, and take +1 for each yes. On a hit, you're stabilized, clear up to 2 conditions. On the 7th line, it's a particularly improvised treatment. Fill your stress track or describe how the remedy is precarious. On a miss, you wake up somewhere unexpected. I love that. Okay. And the other thing we need to decide about Checkpoint Midnight are the rules that it operates. And further down that tab, you will find the checkpoint rules. And it says, choose 2 rules that you are expected to abide by in the checkpoint. Let me go the other way this time and start with Chaz. Where do you want to give me one that you're keen on?
Yeah, if it's an emergency, like a hospital emergency room, I would think absolutely no weapons would have to be, like you got to check whatever it is at the door. Sure, makes sense.
The way I'm reading this is that this is for the entire checkpoint. So the cafe at the front, the meeting room, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm gonna mark that one. Then I'll come to Pearl and say, is there another rule there that you would like to be in place, Pearl?
I think that following along that same line, the rule of no violence or plotting thereof on the premises. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you can plot stuff elsewhere, but not on the premises. Okay, and there's some other questions around the checkpoint. I'm interested in Nico. Can you describe something about Checkpoint Midnight that subtly displays its supernatural nature?
Throwing other difficult questions here. Supernatural nature. The place itself is somewhat supernatural then.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to tease out, I guess.
Yeah, this is usually like played as like a paint the scene thing where everybody contributes something to this. So like this is not all on you, Nico. You don't.
No, absolutely not. I'm going to work through each of you.
Thinking maybe it's.
I mean, Max, I can come back to you. I can roll round. There's no pressure.
Yeah, sure. If you have another question for the other 2.
Fine. Well, it's the same question for the other 2, I have to say.
Okay. Sure.
So Pearl, describe something about Checkpoint Midnight that subtly displays its supernatural nature.
Can it just have sort of an odd sense about it, I guess? When someone approaches closely on the street who has, that some of the supernatural about them, maybe it just puts out a bit of a feeling. It's just slight. You wouldn't notice it if you were running by, but if you pause, then you'll get that sense that this is a place that is safe.
Right. So, how do you want to describe that? An aura of supernatural safety?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, it lends itself to, you know, people coming in and taking advantage, hopefully, of the emergency room, but it also probably lends itself to odd people showing up here who have no idea why they're here.
You're muted.
Yep.
Alan, you're muted.
So what I've typed is an aura of supernatural safety. I can't spell supernatural, that's a different question. Safety that extends to the street outside, that attracts even those supernaturals who don't know why they are attracted to the place. Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I like that. That's really quite a cool one, that, because that means that you could get walk-ins, confused walk-ins. Great. What about Chaz? What does Chaz sense or feel about this place?
The thing that Chaz noticed right away is that depending on where in Checkpoint Midnight you are, you hear different music that seems to kind of like subtly like back up whatever conversation is happening there. So like in the corner, if a bunch of people are celebrating, you'll hear like some, you know, jaunty, like, you know, maybe some big band or swing. But across the way, if there are people engaged in contentious debate, it will be some kind of like ominous strings or something like that. And it kind of changes subtly as you walk around the place.
Oh, right. So these are little sound bubbles almost. So around this table where we're having the contentious debate, that's the soundtrack. Oh, right. How do you want to describe that? That's quite a difficult one to capture in a sentence.
Oh, I think
well, look, rather than you telling me,
I'll type it in.
You put it in that box. Then I'm clear. Nico, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think building on both a little, I think it would be interesting, like if people walk past Checkpoint Midnight, and for example, the door is open, somebody goes in or out, and you should be able to hear what's going on inside, but when you're on the outside, you're not able to hear it. And I think when you pass by, or when you get close enough, you get that feeling like when you're in an airplane, you get the air pressure on your ears.
Oh,
that kind of
right.
thing.
So
it's kind of protective as well.
Okay, so no sound escapes the cafe to the street outside, even though it should ... Does that? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Those are really interesting ones. Because I don't know about you, often we paint the scene, I default to the way it looks, but those are really interestingly different bits of painting the scene. Thank you. The other thing we need to do is we need to shape the proprietor of Cafe Midnight. Let me go round again. Well, no, let me go back. I'll go backwards. So, Nico, what's the apparent age of the proprietor of the checkpoint?
I think generally you would think they are probably older, but I think I kind of like it if they're younger in this case. Maybe they're like early 30s, although at that time you would probably look older than you would than being actually 31. But yeah, I think the early 30s, something like that.
Fine. So a mature adult in their prime, in their 1948 prime. Okay.
And are they Austrian or?
What are we thinking? Well, can I leave that one?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Because we've got other questions. Sure.
I'll go through the straightforward ones, and we'll come to the kind of more exotic ones in a bit. Well, nationality may not be exotic. Pearl, what's their apparent gender?
Would it be inappropriate to say that it isn't apparent? Yeah, I think that.
So by that, do we mean that we never get a good look at them? Is there some way that we never get to kind of see them, or is it, as would fit with some of the pre-war kind of Viennese, could this be a man who appears to be a woman, or vice versa, or we don't know?
I think perhaps, and I think they're not. They kind of lean into the mystique of the situation a little bit.
Yeah, is it baggy coat and big hat don't know, or like Tilda Swinton don't know?
Yeah, I think I would lean maybe toward the Tilda Swinton don't know.
Yeah, okay.
I am going to put the Tilda Swinton
the Bowie
reference.
Yeah.
I'm going to. Well, yeah. Those of us who know that Tilda Swinton and David Bowie are the same person, just shifted in time. So I put Tilda Swinton in there because we must find a couple of pictures of that actress. Give us something to work with. Demeanor, Chaz. What is the proprietor's demeanor?
I think that it is winking condescension.
Winking condescension. Okay.
Like they kind of do this very good job of kind of acting like they are above it all the time, but that you and just you are in on the joke. But they're clearly doing it with everybody.
Okay, fine. We can love that. Now we come to some of that more exotic stuff that we might be able to pack into this. And again, I'll work back, starting with Chaz. Chaz, rumors about them, and this could include actual or supposed or rumored nationality or origins.
I'm going to lean into the Tilda Swinton thing, and the rumor is that they are Orlando, that the novel is based on. And if you're not familiar with Orlando, that is about an immortal, is a character in Alan Moore's later League of Extraordinary Gentlemen comics. And they're an immortal who changes gender kind of as they age throughout through the ages, and have been there at all kinds of, significant historical events and stuff like that. And, slept with everybody important in history and, of both genders and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's the rumor is that that's not actually a fictional character, but it's based on our proprietor here.
Are they known as Orlando then? Because I was going to come back at the end and say how do you refer to them? But mull that over, and I'll come back to that question about how are they addressed. Pearl, what rumors have you heard about the proprietor of Checkpoint Midnight?
Just a little clarification for those who are familiar with Orlando. Do we know the origin of Orlando?
No, I don't think so. Well, let me see here. I think it's just kind of like they've been around since, like, I think medieval times. Let me see here. Okay.
Older than they appear, then, I think.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, perpetually 30-something.
Yeah, so Orlando, a biography, was written by Virginia Woolf issued in 1928. Tumultuous family history. Adapted into modern stuff. Let me see here. Eponymous hero is born as a male nobleman in England during the reign of Elizabeth I. He undergoes a mysterious change of sex at the age of 30 and lives on for more than 300 years into modern times without aging perceptibly. So there you go.
Great. So yeah, let's say Orlando is from the UK. Well, yeah, from England.
So rumored to
You're muted.
but speaks every language like a native.
Hmm.
Okay. They are British but speak every language like a native. ... Okay. So who knows how that rumor started, because, you know, they sound British when they speak English. They sound absolutely French when they speak French, and so on. Nico, a last rumor about the Proporietor.
I think there's a photo that has been seen by some people where they have been photographed with some of the Nazi leadership.
Yes, right.
I think it doesn't exist anymore, but I think certain people might have seen it at some point. Muted.
The Nazi leadership must have visited Vienna, I'm assuming, at some point during the war. So there's a photo of their leadership in Vienna. And
I think you found the keyboard shortcut.
I found the keyboard shortcut, yes, without trying. So is that before or during the war, do we think?
I think we can play to find that out.
Okay.
Sorry, unless you had a strong feeling about it, Max. That's your...
No, don't have any. I think it might be even more interesting if it's not obvious, like you recognize the faces, but they don't have the whole uniform on and stuff like that. I think that's more interesting, probably.
Okay, fine. So at the minute, there's a lost photograph. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I suppose then the final question is, how is the Proporietor addressed? You know, is it just Proporietor, or do they have a name?
I think it's got to be a title. Like the emergency room thing makes me think that like they're like the that we just call them doctor or something like that.
Or chief administrator.
What do we think? We've got two on the table, Nico. Which way are you going to jump?
Yeah, I think I like leaning in that direction. The administrator, I don't know, something like that, yeah. Checking right now for something else, but
I mean, given the time is, 1948, boss.
No, I don't like that. It's like chief administrator is super bureaucratic. That's kind of cool. That's okay. Yes, yeah, and maybe like and maybe the regular patrons call them CA.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. So CA to their friends. Great. Okay. So we have some sense of Checkpoint Midnight. So let's just paint we've got the general scene for this. So as you arrive, tell me something that is going on, or paint the scene for Checkpoint Midnight, the cafe. Chaz, I think, is likely to get there first. So Chaz, what do we see the first time you walk into Checkpoint Midnight? We've had all this kind of slightly kind of strange aura.
Yeah, I think that I kind of like the idea that it's that it looks more like when you first walk in, it looks more like something like a lunch counter or like a diner or something like that than a, like what we might think of as like a speakeasy or something like that or whatever. And that's actually fairly well lit, and there's booths and a counter and all that kind of stuff and everything. And I think when I when I come walking in, at the counter, there's two people sitting there, and one of the waitresses is kind of like leaning in, watching the two of them, and one guy has a little pocket watch that he is swinging like this in front of the other guy, and he's like mumbling something about him, to him, and he stops and like snaps the pocket watch up into his hand and then says something to the other guy whose eyes are kind of wide, and he just reaches over and takes a bottle of ketchup and just like just glugs it into his mouth, and it's going down the sides of his face, and then he like his head shakes and he like slams the bottle down, and the waitress laughs, and the guy with the pocket watch like holds out a hand like pay up, and the other one like grumblingly reaches for his wallet to hand him like whatever, like a dollar bill, like it was just a little bar bet or something like that. And I laugh as I go to find my booth. Yeah.
And so is this a lunch counter that serves the public?
I think since we've established that people can kind of walk in here without knowing why, I don't know why not. I mean, it's like I kind of like the idea that it's like you gotta and when I that's right. And when I come walking in, there's a coat rack there, and I hand them my my razor, which I'm not allowed to have with me while I'm in here.
Well, look, what about this then? So you're coming off the street, and there's a lunch counter with some stools. And then there's one of those nice velvet ropes at the end.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
That separates the public facing from the more private space beyond.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And who takes the coats?
Well, it's like the door labeled
weapons.
The door labeled banquets only or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So who takes this? Is there a hat check girl here? Is there a bouncer?
There are it's a pair of twins who are like 5'8", but like shoulders as wide as they are tall. They're like Ukrainian or something like that.
Okay. So
yeah, and they mostly just talk in, grunts and nods and shakes of the head. We're not even sure what language they speak, but like, it is known you do not mess with them, with the twins.
Fine. So these are the twins. Okay. Let's, I think probably, Pearl, you're not going to be the next person to arrive. So let's go beyond the twins. I don't think you carry weapons, so you have nothing particularly to check with the twins, but they nod to you and grunt at you. And sometimes it's like they finish one of those sentences. So one of them will say, and he lifts there's the little kind of velvet rope and gestures you forward and closes it. So beyond the lunch counter, then we enter a space, the cafe proper, perhaps. Tell me something about the cafe proper.
I think that the tables are all set, right? They're very sort of, it's not fancy, but it's proper. So everything is very proper inside the cafe, and I think there are, at any given time of day, right, night, day, or any of the hours in between, there are always some patrons here. It doesn't ever really close. And so when Pearl walks in, there will be, several groups of people at varying tables or booths, right? And, you can just, as she wanders through past, this table or that booth, she'll catch a glimpse of, or not a glimpse, but a, what's the audible word for a glimpse? She'll catch a whisper of some of the music that's playing, right, in each of their areas. And one of them, it's, soothing, classical, something nice and like Swan Lake or something, right? And then on to another, and there'll be a couple of people speaking animatedly, right? And at that table, they'll it'll be like a really peppy Tchaikovsky or something, right? So yeah.
And so that's the first time our audience will get a hint of this, the way the music changes, because you come through past maybe there's a couple sitting together, and as you walk past them, there's romantic violins, and then, as you say, as you move further in past another table or a booth, the music changes, and yet there is no orchestra. What's going on here? And presumably then, Pearl, will you go and sit where Chaz is sitting?
Yes.
Yeah. That means, Nico, that you are the last person to arrive with the briefcase that you were asked to collect. And the person who asked you to collect it is sitting with Chaz and Pearl. Who or what are they? What do we see when we see the patron for the first time, Nico?
Patron. I'm thinking they kind of look like Lance Reddick, the actor in The Wire, or in John Wick. He's playing like the front guy. I don't know if you can put up a picture or something like that. But very tall, or they rather. Yeah, I think they are sitting there. You just asked me what they look like, correct?
Yeah, that gives me a flavor.
That's what I'm imagining.
And they notice you because they very carefully have selected the seat that gives them a view of the way in. And Pearl and Chaz are sitting there. We know that it was getting on towards evening. It was the end of the working day when we started last time. So I think probably that it is certainly evening now. And the evening crowd are coming in. And I guess, therefore, you're drinking alcoholic drinks if you want it. And his eyes light up when he sees you, Nico. Or more precisely, they light up when he sees that you're carrying a briefcase.
I think I before I head to them, I will pick up a double drink for myself and then head over there. I think the bartender or whoever would deliver the drinks, we have a sign already, like, okay, I need two this time, not one. And then I head over to the rest of the group and put the briefcase on the table.
You are absolutely regulars here, so you catch the eye of the barman, and two, and he knows what you want delivered. He turns up with a tray, And let's say that this man is British, and he says, "I'm so pleased that you were able to obtain." Well, I assume, Nico, that is what I asked you to get.
Let's hope so.
May I?
I open it and turn it towards him.
And he looks inside, and he then closes and says, "Yes, that's absolutely." And he reaches into his coat and he brings out 3 envelopes of the cash payment that he had agreed with you. And he says, "And with that, I thank you for your work, and perhaps we'll do business again soon." And he takes the briefcase and leaves the cafe, unless someone wants to stop him.
I was gonna take a look while opening the briefcase of what we see, unless it's just the golden glowing briefcase from Pulp Fiction or something.
Oh well, no. Let's see. Decipher. When you take time to decipher a personal situation, I think that's where you get to ask me some questions. So that seems like the right move.
Sure.
So let's have you roll. Is this using a supernatural or natural sense?
I think I'm just looking at it.
Okay, so that sounds more like
Operator, right?
Operator. Yeah, I think so.
Yep. I rolled an 8 and I have 2, so we're at a 10.
My goodness me, this is going terribly well. So
for now.
On a 10 plus, ask 3 of those questions. And I will interpret the questions as broadly as I can. I'm not great on lists of questions. So which question do you want to ask?
What danger am I overlooking?
I think the danger that you're overlooking is that you don't think he's really British. And that is a worry, because that means that he's not, you can't quite pin him in one of the great powers. And it's always more reassuring when you know that who you're dealing with. So I think that he is not who he appears to be.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that open up a second question you will ask?
I think where's a weak point I could exploit might be interesting. I don't know. You two chime in too if you have a favorite. What do you want to ask? But I think that might be a good option. Although that might just be knowing that he is not British. That might already be that. Maybe I'll go with how could I gain leverage instead.
I think you could gain leverage on this individual. Let's call him, you know him as Carruthers, Carlton Carruthers. That sounds a suitably joke British name. So I think that if you could confront him if you could convince him that you know that he is not what he seems, that would give you leverage over him. Does that seem a reasonable answer to the question?
Okay.
And then a third question.
Yeah, Will, Jim, do you have any preference here for the third one?
I mean, who's pulling the strings seems like the one that is most interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
That's going to give us some insight into what's really going on with him.
Who's pulling the strings here? As he reached into the bag, just to kind of look in like that, his shirt, his cuffs kind of stretched up, and you caught just the hint of a tattoo on his forearm of a dragon's head, a reptile, something reptilian. And because there is a and I just need to check my factions here. There is a group called the Red Warlocks operating in Vienna, a radical branch of Soviet revolutionaries seeking to assist regime change in Europe. And they are associated with tattoos, dragon tattoos. And that suggests that Carlton Carruthers has an association at least with the Red Warlocks. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, if you roll with any on the basis of any of that information, Nico, you will roll with advantage. So I need to ask you, given what you now know about Carlton Carruthers, is there anything you want to do now, or do you want to keep that for later?
I think I'm going to keep that for later. I don't think Nico is the type to confront that directly, especially here.
Okay. And Chaz, what do you want to do with you've got your money in hand? Carlton Carruthers is leaving unless you do something to stop him. Are you prepared to see him go?
Like when he starts to get up, I just kind of do one of these like hold on a second, pal. And I pop the envelope and I count it. I don't know him. I don't know him from Adam.
Okay. It is all the good stuff.
Okay.
It is the money that you agreed. It is in take your pick. Dollars, pounds, francs, rubles.
No, it's in dollars.
Already an international currency in Vienna. What about Pearl? Is there anything you want to do before Carlton leaves?
I think Pearl just wants to continue to be as unnoticed by him as possible.
Okay. Does she do anything when Gaspard de Jeune bursts into the room and punches Carlton Carruthers? That seems to me to be an excellent point for a break, because I'm conscious that I've run well over my usual hour. So let's take 10 minutes there. Let's have a decent break, and then we'll come back and probably play through. So shall we say 22 the hour?
Yep.
See you then.
See you. I'm back. I hope my neighbor just started to drill the wall. I hope it doesn't get too loud. We'll see.
Oh,
We'll see.
Fingers crossed. So Jim will be here in a moment, I'm sure. I didn't use the picture you suggested, Max. I found a kind of slightly cropped one of him for the NPC tab. Just make sure I've got the right one. And I've also added a suitably ambiguous picture of Tilda Swinton as CA, the proprietor. We need a picture of Gaspard de Jeune, don't we? What about? Hang on, I've got an idea. Yeah, that's the idea. I was hoping for one of him in period dress, but I'm struggling. I'm thinking Gérard Depardieu. But we'll worry about later. Okay, so we're back in the room, and yes, Gaspard de Jeune has just come into the cafe and punched Carlton Carruthers as he sought to leave the cafe. What do you do, Chaz, if anything?
I am up out of my seat immediately and saying, gentlemen, you may not be familiar with the rules, but this is the kind of thing that gets you in deep, deep trouble.
And Chaz, what is that? Because the twins are coming down the short corridor to the cafe. Or one of the twins. I think there's always one of them left on the rope. So, what does that trouble usually look like? What happens to people who break the rules?
I think that if it's one person, they get, dragged off, a twin on each arm. And there are several ways out of here, but there's like a double swinging door with a sign on it that says staff only. And if you go out that door, you are never seen in the cafe again. And no one knows what happens to you. But if you go out through the staff door, that is the last time that you go out.
Okay.
And if the twins get their hands on you, they take you out through the staff door.
So you're trying to calm this down before the twins get involved. I'm with you. Well, that sounds like. What does that sound like?
I think I'm making a stand here.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, fine. So roll plus dreamer.
I mean, it's not necessarily my call. Well, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's the closest thing. It's like, hey, this is neutral ground. You guys got to adhere to that. And if you don't, it's going to get bad. So please take my advice here. So dreamer, which for me is going to be, let's see. It's a flat roll for me. So I got my dice right in front of me here. I'm just going to roll those. See what I come up with. Oh, that's a 10, 6 and 4.
So on a 10 plus, on a hit, you command their attention. PCs who follow your lead, blah, blah, blah. On a 10 plus, if they don't follow your lead, they have to show more of themselves than they are meant and lower their guard. I think that Gaspard will follow your lead. And there was this wild, manic look in his eye that is just, the red mist has come down, and you challenging him, the red mist clears, and it's almost like he realizes where he is, and he backs off, but he looks daggers at Carlton Carruthers. And one of the twins just gets to the kind of threshold of the cafe proper, and catches your eye.
And
signal are you sending?
What's that?
What signal are you sending to the twin?
I say to the twin, just a disagreement over what drink I'm going to buy these two gentlemen.
And the twin goes, and
I kind of like point to chairs at opposite sides of one of the tables for them to sit down as I am pulling out the chair in between the two of them.
Okay. And DeJean is clearly even angrier with Carlton Carruthers, to the point where he is ignoring Nico, who he cannot have missed is being in the cafe. And I think Carlton Carruthers is looking nervous and frightened. What do you do, Chaz?
Gentlemen, take a seat, please. Let's figure this out. Frankly, you have both piqued my curiosity, and once that happens, it's really hard to get rid of me. So, best bet, let's just sit down, figure this out. While the drinks come, the two of you can, each of you come up with your best version of what happened, and then lay it on Uncle Chaz here.
Nico, what's your reaction to seeing Gaspar so angry with Carlton and apparently ignoring you? What's your immediate reaction?
Well, I'm thinking, since I have some information possible that Gaspar might not know, that this might get me out of trouble with him, that I might be able to use this in some way. But what I'm wondering is, what's the name of the group? The Red Warlocks. Are they generally welcome here, or are they mythical? We don't really know about them, or
anyone who follows the rules and gets that tingling on the back of the neck that identifies them as supernatural. It's almost like the club identifies them. So as long as you are supernatural and you follow the rules, you are welcome at Checkpoint Midnight. It is neutral ground. Okay. In terms of the Red Warlocks, all you know is what's in the Factions tab, a radical branch of revolutionaries trying to call up chthonic forces to assist regime change in Europe, and they are aligned with the Soviets. And the face that you know is attached to them is one Boris Stepanovich, a Russian expatriate and crime lord, channeling resources to the Red Warlocks. And now we know that they tend to have dragon tattoos.
Okay. But since he pretends to be British, I think it's fair to say that he doesn't want this information out, that he's part of the Red Warlocks. So I think I will kind of stand behind him and lean down. I suggest you don't cause further trouble here. We can resolve this without issue. You wouldn't want to know your secret, want other people to know about your secret.
Oh, so this sounds... Do you have leverage on him, or does he have leverage on you? I've lost track.
I think I have... I asked the questions, so I can gain leverage by telling him that I know that he is a red warlock. That was a thing, I think.
Okay. Because I'm just looking at the character sheet, and I think there is already one leverage in play between you. What I can't, because I've altered the sheet so you can have leverage goes up and down. Plus is to you, minus is to them. So yeah. I think the starting leverage for him must be -1, because I think he has leverage on you because you dropped him in it.
Oh, I was saying that to Carlton.
Sorry. It's yeah. Sorry, yeah. I'm just being stupid. Okay, so
but I think it makes sense that Gaspar is at -1, yes.
Okay. So yeah, I think you can add Carlton Carruthers to your leverage list and give yourself 1 leverage against him. because you just feel in the way he tenses, and his head just looks down at his wrist, where he suddenly realizes that when he reached into the bag, he revealed some of that tattoo, and you see him just smoothing the cuff of his jacket down. Pearl, Nico has gone over to the other table. What do we see Pearl doing in reaction to all of this?
I think she. Okay, so she'll walk over there as well, and she won't sit. She's going to stand at the end of the table, and just sort of be there to back up her crew, right? But not, she doesn't totally understand what's going on between these two, and so she's not going to try and get in the middle of it exactly, but just be there to kind of provide support.
So Chaz, you've challenged them to spill, really, and there's Pearl standing there in this kind of preternatural stillness, which is frankly intimidating, or as intimidating as she wants it to be. And so I think that Gaspar says, ask him what he is prepared to do to this city.
Well,
And
what are
Carl-
you prepared? What are you prepared to do to the city, Carlton?
And Carl says, "No, you don't understand. I won't try to prevent it." And he's pulling the sleeve of his jacket down. You have to understand, this can't fall into the wrong hands.
One man's wrong hands is another man's right hands.
And I think Gaspar will challenge Carlton and say, "Well, show them what's in the briefcase."
That's a good start.
And he opens the briefcase and he takes out a folio of music. And it's clearly on old manuscript. And it's quite a stack of music. So this is orchestral music, many parts on this, and Carlton very kind of carefully moves it into the middle of the table without quite taking his hand away. So his hand is resting on it, and on the front it appears to be signed by Beethoven, but there is no title. And Gaspar says, I need this music to save a woman's life. If I have it, I can keep it out of their hands and bargain with Stepanovich.
Tell us more about saving a life.
Who's Stepanovich?
Boris Stepanovich is the crime lord most closely associated with the Red Warlocks.
Okay.
If you allow him to take it to Boris, then I have no leverage.
So what's in it for us?
And Gaspar looks at you and he says, "Walk away. This is between him and me. And then he looks at Nico and he says, and if I'd known that you were involved with this, I would have killed you on the street."
So you may not have understood the question. What's in it for us? I just saved your life right now.
Gaspar.
If the twins hauled you in back, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. It would have ended right there.
And then Carruthers intervenes. He says, I think you misunderstand my motive here, Gaspar. And he pulls up the sleeve of his coat, and the dragon's head is there. But you can see that across the snaking body of the dragon that moves up his arm, another tattoo has been superimposed to obscure the dragon. He says, I want nothing to do with this. This is just beyond comprehension what they would do with this music. You can't bargain with Stepanovich. He's implying he's left the Warlocks or disassociated himself with them.
So, okay. So you just want to, what are you going to do? Take this home and burn it or something?
That's what Carlton wants to happen, is he wants rid of it.
So, sorry, I say that out loud to Carlton. So what's the deal? Are you going to take this home and burn it or something? Did we get it for you just so you could destroy it?
Yes.
And
he says, and for the first, because it's a kind of folio of, it's not bound, it's wrapped in this cover, and he says, this music, looking at you as he opens it, will raise monsters from the rubble. And as you all look down at the paper inside the folio, you will see it is full of blank pieces of paper. And Gaspar looks at it in horror and looks at Carlton and says, what have you done with it? And Carlton looks at him and, where is it? What have you done with it? He then looks at Chaz and Nico and Pearl. This is just the cover. Where's the music?
No idea. You asked us to steal a briefcase. We stole you a briefcase.
And Carlton just slumps in his seat. It must still be at the embassy in advance of the performance. Oh, God. And Gaspar is looking equally shocked. On the one hand, Carruthers wants to destroy it. On the other hand, Gaspar seems to want to do business with it, so to somehow leverage something out of the Red Warlocks.
So look, Gaspar, tell us about this woman whose life is in danger.
Yes.
Marguerite Durand is being held by Stepanovich as for leverage over her sister. Her sister is a pianist and was to play. And he looks in horror at this music.
So it sounds like if we can get Marguerite from out of the clutches of the Red Warlocks, that solves this whole problem.
And Gaspar says, well, yes. But Carlton says, but they'll still play the music.
No, because if we can get the dame out of there, they got nothing on her sister. She doesn't have to play.
Carlton says, well, I suppose that might work.
Or even better, we can get her to, change a note or two here and there. And then they'll think it didn't work.
And Carruthers says, yes, that could work.
Because, if we keep it from happening, they'll still be curious. They'll still have the itch. But if we let it happen, but just, mess with it,
That could work. Yes, that could work.
They'll think it just didn't work like it was supposed to. And they won't have that itch anymore.
Nico, I'm curious. You're a practitioner in the arcane here. This sounds like a fascinating thing, this piece of music. What's your feeling about what should happen to the music?
I think first of all, when Chaz suggests changing some notes, I think Nico kind of mumbles to himself, changing Beethoven. Like, how dare you? I don't know. I think could I make a roll to kind of see, would that actually work? Changing the notes, would that kind of prevent whatever might happen from happening?
I think that's probably Get Spooky, isn't it? Which is that it's using what you know about magic, unless you have a specific move.
Nothing specific to that, no.
Then I think it's roll plus fable to express a view on this.
Okay. That is 7 plus 2, 9.
Okay, so on 7 to 9, choose 2. You struggle to keep your sanity fully intact.
Great.
You've drawn attention and made yourself a target for now or later. Your powers do things beyond what you meant.
I choose 2 that don't happen, right?
No, you choose 2 that do happen.
Oh, that is horrible. Okay. Never rolling that again. I think your powers do things beyond what you meant. And I think I'm going to mark a stress as well.
Okay, I think that's quite interesting. I think these little sound bubbles. Now, in this tense discussion around the table, there's been lots of screeching guitar, screeching violin notes. And suddenly, on the paper, attached with the folder, because the folder is the original, but on the blank paper inside of this decoy, notes just begin to appear, and you can feel something moving beneath the city, something serpentine or dark, and the music becomes, initially there's beauty in it, but then it seems to just tear apart some of the skin of normality around you, and that's where the stress comes from, Nico, because you kind of look into what this music could do, and it sounds like if you could change it enough, then it might work. The best solution is don't play it.
Okay, I think after that I kind of try to gather myself for a second and show to the bartender the hand motion. Okay, another double, please.
Well, as you turn slightly kind of pale and go to do that, standing on your shoulder is CA, the proprietor, and they are looking down at you. And they say, Nico, what did you do?
Sometimes things don't happen as planned. But it's not against the rules, is it?
Whatever you did, Nico, disturbed things in this city. Just be careful. And then they turn away and they're gone. And then the drinks arrive. Pearl, what do you make of all of this? Because that little music bubble was very disturbing. It felt like it it was actually tearing at the fabric of the city, and therefore conceivably at the fabric of you.
Yeah, I think that she'll have a little bit of a, like, maybe a twitch moment or two, right, where the serene preternatural calm is disturbed, right? And she'll sort of say under her breath, maybe just a little louder than that, but not loud enough to be heard far away, right? We cannot allow this music to play under no circumstance.
And though she's gone, it's as though CA is just on your shoulder, and you hear a voice say, "Precisely, Pearl. What's the plan?"
I think Nico just says to the table, changing the notes. It just might work.
Well, all right then.
How are we going to find Marguerite?
I mean, we've got someone who has been in the Dragon's Den, right?
Carlton?
So, Carlton, where would they be holding Marguerite?
This sounds like someone is exerting leverage on Carlton. When you exert your leverage over someone, say what you want from them, then remove an option below. They choose from this list. Spend a leverage up to 2 to remove additional options. So leverage never guarantees an outcome, but it reduces their options of avoiding the outcome or costs them in some way. So I think Carlton looks at Nico, who has the leverage. Yeah. So Nico, do you want to spend that leverage? And if so, which of those options do you want to remove from Carlton's choices? Comply with what you want, promise you something else they think you want, weasel out by giving you more leverage or giving you leverage they hold on someone else, brazen it out by marking a condition, cut a deal by giving up leverage over you. Which one do you want to take off the table?
I'm not sure. What do you guys think?
Pearl, thoughts?
Yeah, I think, well, I'm not sure which one to do, but I think the time is right, you know.
I think remove brazen it out. Brazen it out is the way that he can just stonewall us.
Yeah, I guess.
That's
okay.
Let's
Okay.
go with that.
Okay. And Carlton will say, if I was still on the inside, but they know I've broken with them, they've identified me as a fellow traveler, no more than that. But there is someone who might be able to help you. And I think he is choosing to weasel out by giving you leverage they hold on someone else, on an Andrei Godunov, who is is an associate of the Red Warlocks who will have more up-to-date information on this Marguerite of whom you speak than he has. But he's, he is just worried about, this symphony being in circulation. That remains his concern. So Nico, I think that you seem to be stacking up the leverage here. I think he has given you, in return for the leverage you had on him, you now have leverage on Andrei Godunov instead. Okay?
Mm-hmm. And I lose the leverage on...
And you lose the leverage on him.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In effect, he is stepping into the background and giving you another target. What about Gaspar? I think Gaspar is going to exert his leverage on Nico. When an NPC exerts their leverage over you, they say what they want from you, then remove an option below. You choose from this list. They spend a leverage up to remove additional options. Okay. He has one leverage on you, Nico, and he looks at you and he says, if you, Nico, can free Marguerite, then we are even. But I need your solemn promise. I need you to swear on all you hold holy or valuable to you that you will free Marguerite.
I think Nico just puts his hand out as to shake on the deal.
Well, do you want to? I'm going to remove the option, which is brazen out by marking a condition, so you can't get out of this. So, so then you can choose one of those.
I guess that's complying with what he wants.
And take an XP.
That sounds good.
So you are.
I want him to shake on it, though, if that's possible. I do have something up my sleeve.
Oh, fine. Okay. Yes, fine. He will absolutely grip your hand and shake it and say, "I am trusting you, Nico," when every instinct I possess says I shouldn't.
And I think his hand, I hold it longer than I should probably, and it gets very hot. And when he kind of pulls away, there's the shape of a chess figure, the rook, burned into his hand. Now,
is that a move that you have just triggered?
That is sign in blood. When you shake on a deal, and you and your partner, human or otherwise, both bear the mark of your oath. Detail it. If either of you breaks the contract, the backslider marks all conditions besides missing an action as the curse comes to bear.
Oh, wow. Right. So you and Gaspar are now bound in a different way.
Yes. It also means he has to actually kind of let me off the hook after this.
Yeah. Great. So I think Carlton he says, this was my one chance at this. I now have to get out of Vienna. They were on my trail. I've done all I can for you. But my advice is, if you cannot solve this, get out of the city before that music is played. And he leaves the cafe. Gaspar has a picture of Marguerite that he will put on the table. And he says, I beg you, save her. Pearl?
Of course. We will do everything that we can. She is dear to you, yes?
She is dear to me, and she's innocent in this. She knows nothing of this. She's but a pawn in all that is going on. She may even not understand that she is a prisoner.
Yes.
I think that he's playing in there to the innocent will be protected, if that wasn't explicitly clear, Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
One of your purposes.
Yeah.
Chaz. What happens next? Where do we next see our happy trio?
I think wherever what's his name? The one that he
Andrei Godunov.
Yes, Andrei Godunov. I think we gotta pay a visit to Andrei Godunov.
Does anyone know anything about Andrei Godunov or have any way to find out anything about Andrei Godunov?
I guess this is just decipher, right?
It could be. I was just wondering if anybody has any contacts they want to reach out to, that kind of stuff.
The checkpoint also has a meet a contact move.
It does, doesn't it? It does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because the way that this works is that meet a contact. When you meet a contact with the cafe, roll with questions, and the questions are you following the checkpoint rules? Do you have leverage over the checkpoint's proprietor? Take +1 for each yes. So you'd be rolling with +1 at this point. You have no leverage at this point over CA. On a hit, they have good intel and helpful resources for you. On 7 to 9, it's dicey, keeping your conversation safe from prying eyes, blah, blah, blah. So, you could put your ear to the ground among, the barman. Does the barman know Andrei Godunov? I don't know. Where do you want to look, Nico? You came up with the idea.
So we know he's also connected to the Red Warlocks.
He sounds Russian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the other guy sounded British too, so who knows? But I think the barman is probably the first point of. Is there like a central figure to the whole cafe, except for the for CA?
That's up to you. We've talked. The barman has been there. He knows his clientele well enough to know, whenever you want to drink. So far, the cafe has, I think, 4 employees: the waitress on the lunch counter, the twins, and the barman, plus CA. I'm just, offering that up.
I think talking to the barman probably makes sense. Sorry, Jim, you were about to say something.
Nope, go ahead, please.
Let's engage with the meter contact move. You're rolling +1, Nico.
Okay.
Oh, and I think this means Nico gets to give us a detail or two about the.
I think that would be fair. Yeah.
About Andrei or
about the barman in the first instance. I think.
Okay. Well, I rolled an 8 +1.
Does aid and interfere? Does that have to be stated in advance?
I think that makes sense. I don't know.
Almost never. Almost all PBTA games let you do that after folks.
Yeah, I prefer it afterwards.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering if someone were to be prepared to sacrifice some stress in order to, oil the wheels with the barman. That would allow you to re-roll one of those dice and maybe get across the boundary to 10. Again, I'm just putting that rule in front of you.
What's your roll? What did the dice?
6 and a 2. 6 and a 2.
6 and a
so
2.
Pretty likely get to a 10.
Yeah, I'll. What is that? 1 stress to do that.
That's right.
Where's the help and aid or interfere? When you move the thing on the PDF reader so you can read it. When you provide aid or run interference, mark a stress to give PC advantage or disadvantage on a roll.
Which in this case would be re-rolling the 2.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just that this is just, you know what? When Nico goes up to talk to him, I just give him like, like one of the 20s out of my, out of my stash, and and order a couple more drinks for us, and just tell him keep the change.
Yeah, that's never a bad move in post-war Vienna.
Tip him heavy, which annoys me that I just got paid and now I'm handing it out to the bartender, even though the drinks are overpriced in the first place. So
they certainly are.
That's the stress. So yeah.
Fine. So mark stress, and that means you can re-roll that too, Nico.
All right. Roll a 6.
Well, that's the kind of aid that you really want, isn't it? So that means that on a hit, they have good intel or helpful resources for you. And on the 7, we don't need to worry about any of the 7 to 9s or the fact that a miss would have marked turmoil for the checkpoint. So that name is familiar to the barman, who's, tell me one thing about the barman, Nico.
Looks like Ian McShane and with a Scottish accent.
I avoid Scottish accents after embarrassing myself in a very early Gauntlet game.
Sorry, could be a different accent too.
No, that's fine. You just won't get the Scots, but you will get Ian McShane, which is
it's really all I want.
Which is, he gives you that look, that appraising look.
It's all any of us want, really, is Ian McShane tending bar for us. So
he gives you that appraising look, and he looks at the money, and he puts his palm on the money, and he says, Godunov. And it's almost like he's, you can, the cogs are, yes, Godunov.
I think that's probably when the money lands on the bar to kind of improve his memory a little bit.
And he just crinkles it to make sure it's real. And he goes, yes, he's an undersecretary at the Soviet consulate. And he's a lot less reliable than this. And then he serves the drinks, keeping the change. So you know where he is.
Okay. That doesn't make things easier.
Now, I'm just checking in. It's an hour since our last break, but I'm conscious we've only got about 30 minutes to play. So do we want to take a break now? Or do you want to play through?
I'm good to play through.
Okay, let's just play on for another 20-30 minutes.
Can I have a little chat with Pearl while Nico's going up to, Max is going up to get the drinks?
Of course you can.
So I kind of have both of them left? Both of the...
I think, unless you want to stop them leaving.
Nope.
I think that they have done what they can for our narrative at this point.
Yeah. Okay. So I turn to Pearl, and I'm quiet for a couple of seconds, just looking at her, and I say, that thing with the kids, that really threw you.
They have the spark. They shouldn't be left.
I mean, you're not wrong. But
And they're small.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean they're helpless. Just I don't know. I don't know how you can be made out of stone. And be so soft on the inside. And I say it with like a little bit of a wry grin. Like it's not an insult. It's like I'm genuinely kind of wondering about that.
I'm not soft on the inside. I'm quite solid.
No. That's not what I mean. I mean, if you've been through some people, they see something like that, and you see enough of it, you stop noticing it. You get used to it.
Well, I don't know if that is a good thing, Chaz.
I don't know if it's a good thing or if it's a bad thing. It's just a thing. But those kids are lucky. Everybody else here, soft on the outside, hard on the inside. But they found you. And I am offering comfort.
I think you are. And offering comfort is a move that reads, when you offer comfort to someone willing to listen. I think it was no question that Pearl was willing to listen. Chaz, you roll plus Dreamer. On a hit.
Yep, flat roll for me. Let's see what we got. That's an 8.
On a hit, you can clear a condition. You are both steadied and can clear a condition. So you both clear a condition or a stress. So take your pick. I can't remember if any of you have a condition in place.
I do.
I know.
Yes.
I know
Pearl might.
A condition. Yep.
Yeah. So you can clear that condition. And you, Chaz, can clear a condition or stress. On 10 plus, take leverage over the person you comfort.
Yeah, I didn't roll
No,
it.
you didn't.
I just got an 8. So and I'm gonna reduce my stress by 1.
Fine.
And I cleared blunted.
Yeah, I think
Great.
that's cool. I like that.
So you have a lead on Andrei Godunov. I'm just looking for a picture of Godunov. But leave that one with me.
And I say, Soviet console. I may have an in there. I know a guy.
Well then, is that the next cut to the Soviet consulate? And if so, is that just Chaz, or is this Chaz and somebody else? And if it's not Chaz and somebody else, who are the somebody else's? What are the somebody else is going to do with the time?
I think if Chaz goes there alone, I think it makes sense that Nico doesn't head towards the Soviet sector, because he almost just get caught when crossing the checkpoint. I think then Nico would go to go play some chess maybe in his downtime.
Okay.
Yes, he's getting relatively stressed out.
That's at some other cafe in Vienna rather than midnight, or?
I was thinking it's in parks they have those like stone tables for chess. They might be broken down from the wall or something like that. Maybe there's like a corner of it missing, but there's like one that you can still play on, more or less.
Okay, so this looks like we're going to cut to the following day because it was evening time. So I think that we are cutting to the following day. I know that Chaz is heading into the Soviet sector to the consulate. I know that Nico is heading to a park, perhaps inevitably in the shadow of the famous Vienna wheel. Pearl, where will we find you the following day?
I think we'd find so Pearl going to be somewhere in a public place, not moving, observing people.
And is this an occasion where we see Pearl perhaps perched on a cornice on a rooftop in her statue form?
Absolutely.
Just observing hairdressers and other human activity.
Yes.
I will come back to you. Let's go then to the Soviet consulate in the Soviet sector. So you have nothing at all suspicious about you, Chaz. So unless you want there to be a problem at a checkpoint, they'll just wave you through when you show the necessary papers. The sectors are not sealed tight. There is coming and going, but there is controlled coming and going. I think the consulate, the center of Vienna, is Baroque buildings and cobbled streets and beautiful architecture and statues. I'm going to put the Soviet consulate in a kind of concrete block of a building that doesn't belong in Vienna, but somehow it is in Vienna, across the canal in the Soviet sector, heavily guarded, heavy Red Army presence. Everything about it is weighty and solid and blocky.
Brutalist. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we see you going up these concrete steps to these solid doors at which, there are 2 Red Army sentries. And they see your paper and they wave you through. So who do you know here, as if I didn't know?
I know Pyotr Sidorov, who's actually the son of the actual Soviet consul. And the other thing that I absolutely want is that Chaz is the opposite of everything. If we could even do a thing where all the Soviet stuff is in grayscale and Chaz is in color,
Yeah, he is just like Dorothy.
Literal feather in his hat and stuff as he, snaps his paper, kind of just waves his papers I got the papers, and they have to just wave him through.
And the irony here is that he's black.
Oh yeah,
he's in color.
Yeah, and it's just enjoying how miserable they are.
Yeah, yeah. They are all shades of grey, and he is far from that. Because we have a black and white picture of him, but I guess his suit is a really kind of
like a colorful zoot suit.
Yeah. And so Pyotr is the son, and because he's the son of the Soviet consul, he almost certainly has a reasonably high up position in the consulate. So describe Pyotr to me.
Pyotr is he's mid-20s, handsome, slender, like I picture him as having like a Viggo Mortensen kind of thing going on, like good looking guy. And I think he is like the assistant cultural attaché, right? So, I mean, and I swear to God, I envisioned him this way anyways, and not just because it's perfect for what we're planning on, but like I see him as the in charge of like presenting, kind of presenting Soviet culture. So he make sure that the ballets go off and that the whatever, and that the ballerinas don't defect, and and that the Soviet composers are presented favorably, all that kind of stuff and everything. So he's constantly in the other sectors going to operas and ballets and recitals and all this kind of stuff and everything, and that's his job.
And he's almost certainly involved in ensuring that the restoration of the Albertina Museum, which is being used for concerts, is clearly part funded by the Soviets. So they've insisted on a red and gold color scheme in the auditorium.
Sure.
I've added a picture of the young Vigo to our NPC tab.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and so oh, Chaz.
Ooh, that's a good-looking dude. Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, let's just share him with the world.
Okay.
There he is in all his young glory. So yeah, let's Oh, Chaz, it's well, hang on. You have some leverage on Piotr, don't you?
Oh yeah.
And I just fill me in on the background to that. Is this leverage? Oh, my friend Chaz, or shit Chaz?
I think it's Chaz. You're not supposed to visit me at work. Like that kind of leverage, right?
Okay.
Like we're supposed to keep this on the QT, this thing we got going on.
Yeah, but he will have a secretary deliver strong black tea, and shot glasses of vodka, and sits there in a big armchair, big desk chair. He's the cultural attaché, and you sit on a comfortable chair opposite him, and he says, "What can I do for you, Chaz? This is irregular, that, but you are Chaz. I am Piotr. What can I do for you?"
Well, comrade, as it happens, I have a line on a particularly unique piece of music that might be of interest to you. I mean, and and I kind of I sort of stare pointedly at the the big black big light telephone on his desk, because we both know that it's got a bug in it.
Well, how do you know about that? He says. We've been keeping that very quiet.
Well, I mean, of course, it's, even when you keep things quiet, if you've got your ear to the ground, you can, you may hear a note or two of what's going on.
Well, it's not often that you come across a unique piece of music by a famous composer that is completely unknown.
Unprecedented is what I would call it.
And of course, to have agreed with the French that Mess Durand is going to play it is certainly something that shows that we of the Soviet Union are more than open to cultural cross-fertilization and openness.
And I chuckle at that. I like he says cross-fertilization, and like I like snicker. And I'm like, cross-fertilization, huh? Well, all right. I guess that's one term for it. Look, comrade, why don't you... I feel like... Can you just meet me at Checkpoint Midnight? And we can... And maybe we can make plans to go to a concert together.
I will meet you tonight. I'm not going to do any of the leverage stuff now. I think that given the relationship we have, it's perfectly reasonable he would turn up, and we'll worry about what you want to ask of him, unless that's all you want from him. I didn't think it was. Let's cut to Nico in the park. Nico, do you have a regular chess opponent, or does this work as you just sit down and someone turns up?
I think I don't play with just anybody. I think I play with good chess players. I think Nico is very good at chess. I think I'm playing with somebody from the Maya family who I have some leverage on.
So you do, the Maya family, who are they're quite high up in Viennese society and stuff. They're a big family in Vienna, yeah?
Relatively, yeah. I think so.
Okay. And is this son, daughter of the family, matriarch of the family?
I think it's the matriarch of the family.
So this is Frau Maya.
Yes.
And Frau Maya, despite the fact that, when you look around in the park, and I think this will fill in for Pearl as well, because from Pearl's perspective, we get a view of the city. People they're recovering from the war, but their clothes are patched and worn. Often they look patched and worn. But Frau Maya has managed to bounce back more quickly than the city. And so she is dressed in, a very nice coat from Paris, perhaps, with a very nice hat and a veil. And she says, Nicholas, how nice to see you again for our regular game.
Always good to see you. And I think he brought a newspaper with him, and he kind of unfolds, takes something out, puts it on the table upside down, and I think he just makes the first move. I think he has the white side of the chessboard.
And as she considers his move and looking at what he's put on the table, is there any significance in what she sees?
I think she can just tell that it's an old photograph, but it's upside down, so she can't see what's on it.
And she says, Nicholas, as she makes her move, is such cruelty really necessary?
Well, it depends how forthcoming you are with information.
You make your move, and every time there's an exchange in the conversation, a move is taken. And she says, yes, bishop to knight 3.
And I think he makes his move immediately, like not even thinking about it. Like, just sure about what she was going to do and making his move. And I need some information about the Red Warlocks. I'm sure you can help us out in that regard.
And the game continues, and what do you want to know? Queen to knight 4.
And I think I just keep pushing her towards I don't think Nico is out for a specific piece of information. I think he's just trying to test what she's got on them. I think he's pretty sure that she has some information on them. But I think he's just he's fishing right now, kind of
Okay.
figure out what they got.
So I think this is when you exert your leverage over someone, say what you want from them, and then remove an option below. So I think you need to be a little bit specific about what you want from her. Because I think we are going to assume that she knows something. She's very well connected in society.
Yes.
She certainly attends all of Piotr's cross-cultural events, as she does anything run by the British Council or the US equivalent. So what exactly are you trying to tease out of her, Nico?
Where there would like prominent locations where they might be, or like a black site kind of for them, where they might keep people, where they might store weapons or information or people they don't want to be found.
I think that's quite tricky given the nature of her kind of connections, which strike me as more kind of social than espionage. But I think what she can tell you is that she can tell you stuff about Boris Stepanovich, who is their front man, that might help you narrow something down. And she can tell you that Boris, well, no, let's engage with the move.
Keep going.
Yes, you really caught me with my veil revealed. So spend leverage to remove an option below. So there are the options. Comply with what you want, promise you something else they think you want, which sounds like what we're moving towards, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't have anything particular. I was just looking for something maybe while we're here. I think I'm going to cut the same one as last time, brazen it out by marking a condition. I'm not really...
Okay, so not prepared to allow her to weasel out by giving more leverage or leave it on somebody else. Then I think she will promise you something else they think you want. She can't help you with the details of where their hideout is, but she can help you with something about Boris Stepanovich's social engagements over the next several days. Let's say that he is something of a gourmand. Let's say that she knows that he eats regularly at a restaurant that is being patronized, because we are in the world of to an extent caricature and national stereotypes here. It has to be a restaurant that is being funded by the French in the center of Vienna to try and get the city's culinary life back to normal. And so I think what she's saying is, well, if I can tell you where Stepanovich will be tomorrow at lunchtime, then maybe you could follow him or find some other way to trace him back to his original location. Does that seem like promise you something else they think you want?
Yeah, I think so. That's worth something. Yeah.
Okay. And then I think finally, Pearl, because we kind of have to wrap this one up, don't we? I think we have to have Pearl see France and Maria's foster father with them in tow. They look happy and smiling, and all seems well with the world. But the only question mark, I think, as we conceivably close out on this episode, is as they are playing around a statue, a fountain in the middle of the square that you are looking down on, you see him approached by an American officer, and there is a tense exchange between the American officer and France and Maria's foster father. that leaves us wondering whether this is the perfect parent that Pearl has found for them or not. Is there anything you want to do with that, Pearl, or is that a good enough closeout?
I think that's an excellent closeout, actually. Yeah.
Which leaves us with something to pick up on next time.
Mhm.
Okay. That, for me, seems to be a reasonable bit of investigation. You have some leads to follow next time. That's great from my point of view. Thank you. I'd like to do a quick stars and wishes, if that's okay. That
End
just
of
runs. Oh, end of session. Well remembered that, man. End of session. At the end of each session, choose one. Describe how your character's ideology or loyalty has been shifted by what they've learned. Okay, let's start with Nico. Has your ideology or loyalty been shifted by what you've learned?
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think so, no.
Let me ask the same question of Pearl.
So I think the way it works is we look at those three options. We choose
Oh,
one of the
you
three.
choose. Yeah, I beg your pardon. You choose one. So yeah, this is something that you therefore choose, which you think exemplifies what you've done. So I have to ask each of you in turn to look at the three questions. Thank you, Jim. Makes much more sense to me now. So let me ask again for Nico to look at those three. Describe how your character's ideology or loyalty has been shifted, or explain how you've gained advantageous insight into a character you interacted with, or describe how another operative can tell you take a bullet for them. So which one of those do you think applies to
I think
Nico?
I gained back my leverage on Gaspar because he has a soft spot for people. He might not be made for this world. Might not be hard enough.
Right. Yeah, very cool. Yeah. Yes, I think you can add leverage to Gaspar. Let me go to Pearl. Which of those three do you think applied today?
I think Pearl probably gained leverage over Chaz because of his, questioning and just, she realizes, I think, that maybe he's in some ways as fascinated with her as she is with humanity.
Fine. Does that work, Chaz?
Totally legit.
Sweet.
Okay. And then coming to Chaz, choose one.
I think so. Describe how your character's ideology or loyalty has been shifted by what they've learned. I think this is the first time, at least in the series that we've been watching, that Chaz suddenly realizes he's got loyalty to the city. Because that talk about if you do this, it could destroy the city. And basically and when they said get out, leave the city to its fate, I was, my initial thought, just like my gut reaction was, no way. And so I
think that's spot on. I think you mark XP because, yeah, absolutely. The impression we've had of Chaz so far is pretty self-centered, pretty selfish, maybe. It's the job, it's the money, nothing else matters. Well, turns out something does.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah. So that is the end of session. I'd now like to do a quick stars and wishes, if you can just indulge me for 4 or 5 minutes. Let me start at Jim. Let me come to you first. Stars, I'll come back for wishes.
Stars, man, I love this game. I tuned in on the tail end of Pearl, started Pearl for the follow through, just really, finding a foster parent for those kids and stuff like that, and kind of this moonlighting as a social worker thing is really interesting. And I really loved getting to see that. Like I said, I caught the tail end of it when I jumped on, but that was really neat to be witness to, and to also come around and have that little coda at the end where we could see that actually seems to have actually made a difference. So neat.
Yeah, no, I mean, do listen into the first 5 minutes, because I want to star Will for that, because I didn't know where you were going to go with that. I didn't know we were going to end up with them living in your apartment or anywhere else. So that was a really cool way to go. So yeah, great star there. Let me go then to Will. Any stars?
Absolutely. I enjoyed the interaction, or the way that Nico, kind of applied his leverage on these two individuals, right? That had that conflicting desire to have that music for different purposes, and also the whole setup of that was brilliant. I loved it.
Yeah, I yes, again, that played out really neatly, and it was. I think that Alexi, the game's designer, will be pleased to see people engaging with leverage, because I think it's part of the uniqueness of the game. Actually, it's different from debts, as I've come across before. Yeah, it's interesting. And Max, any stars?
Yeah, I really enjoyed everything about Pearl. Passing on the children to their foster parent, and afterwards going back to kind of people watch. You weren't going directly to go see the children, right? You were saying in general, you were looking at people. I really like that little detail, like just studying people, how they behave, how they work. Yeah, I really like how Chaz is kind of putting himself in the middle of the situation, kind of taking it over, taking control of it. And also the interaction with Piotr, or I think that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, really like that. And I love how you keep us kind of in Vienna, Alan. Like you keep bringing up like locations and
the details are great.
Yes, like bringing up specific locations like that I wouldn't know, but that just add to the flavor of the game in general.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, ironically, I am currently running a modern day game that turns out to be based in Vienna as well, which is kind of weird how these things collide. Yeah, my stars would go along with all of that. I think I liked the creation of Checkpoint Midnight. I liked some of the stuff that you built into that. I really liked the fact that we didn't boil down to, the waitresses have tails. That makes it supernatural. But yeah, it's this kind of strange thing, and the music is good. I need to remember to use more of that when we're there, because I think it's a really interesting way to portray mood. I just don't know enough about music, but I will do my best to prompt you to. And can I just say thank you, Jim, for intervening to have a moment with Pearl, between Chaz and Pearl. I'm not particularly good at hard framing those moments between characters, so I would just say to all of you, this is a kind of wish for me, to prompt you to step into space rather than just let me get on with a plot, or what passes for a plot in my mind.
Can I ask a question? So yeah. One thing that we haven't done a lot with yet is the release moves that we each have on our sheets. So looking over it, it occurs to me that I have a release. So for the release moves, you can trigger each release move once per session to clear a stress or mark an XP. I have one called Thrill Seeking. Make things harder for yourself in order to look dashing. Does my jumping up to step into the middle of them and kind of...
I think that's very fair. Yeah. There are more moving parts in this game than I am currently internalizing. So if you spot one of those moving parts, by all means do. So no, I think that absolutely.
And a lot of it's very player initiated. Like you got to know what's there and kind of push to get it. Like certainly all those comfort moves are like, hey, I want to do this now. So cool.
Thanks for that, Jim. I was just looking at those and thinking, I don't know. I mean, some of them are perfect, right? I mean, they would fall in very well with, what's been set up for these characters, and I'd like to see them come into play too. That makes a good wish for me, I think.
Fine. Yeah. Let's whichever one of us remembers, let us collectively wish to focus on those at when we set off next time, so that they are in the forefront of my heads and your heads. Because yeah, you're right, they are a key part of this, the uniqueness of this game, and we have not engaged with them, apart I think by accident here and there. So I think you certainly thrill sort. So whatever impact release has, which I think is a stress release move,
-1 stress or +1 XP. I chose to mark XP.
Fine. Let's just have a quick look at the others, just in case we did hit them. What do we think, Max? When you're looking at Nico's prickly, berate someone for not heeding your orders or advice, dispassionate, sacrifice an ally for an advantage. Oh wow, that's cold.
I'm not sure. I got the shady one. We talked about that after the first session. I wrote that. I used that, but the other two I'm not really feeling right now. I don't know. I kind of have to figure out how to use those, because I don't really feel like they fit with my image of Nico yet, because I kind of missed those when creating him. But yeah, I'll see if I can get those in somehow.
Okay, so I think we might have revealed how a current problem is connected to your past actions. Because I'm just thinking of the whole interaction between Carruthers and Gaspar, all of these shady dealings.
But is it connected to my past actions? It's based on me, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, yeah.
I took that last time because Gaspar saw me. That made sense, I think. But in this case, I'm not super sure about that.
Yeah, I think if you had leapt up and intervened, that would have triggered it. Or if he'd come in and punched you.
Yeah, that would definitely have.
Yeah. And before we leave this, Will, just to try and get us in a groove, leave behind a piece of yourself. Now, I'm prepared to view that as openly as you would like. So I'm just wondering about those kids and us coming back to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be good. And I also think it could be interesting to take it extremely literally as well. But I like the idea of it. What impact has Pearl had on the world around her? I like that as well.
Because I think that there is something about you've left some emotional piece of yourself with those kids. So I think that one would count. Naive, misconstrue someone's words or actions terribly. I think that's tender-hearted. Spare someone you probably shouldn't. We've not put you up against someone who you've got the option to spare yet, but I think definitely apply modular and do whatever the playbook says about that. Thanks for the reminder, and a wish for all of us to do that. Specific wishes, very swiftly. Let me go first to Max. Any specific wishes about what you want to see next time?
Yeah, I'd love to get us kind of be pulled between the great forces a little more. Like, we're kind of leaning towards the Soviet side a little bit right now, but I'd love if we also get pulled in a different direction a little bit. As spies between the fronts, kind of getting pulled back and forth. I guess that usually takes more time. So,
No, well, I do have a think about that. I do have a thought of where we can go with that. So thank you for that one. Will, any particular wish?
I'll definitely second that. I think there's some great potential opportunity there. That's one of my favorite things about Cold War era, right? Is just is that you never know who's playing who, sort of thing, right? And where are they coming from, and you're probably being manipulated, but by which side, right? So I think that would be good. I'm also I am pretty keen, I think, for maybe some potential character growth for Pearl, where I think like the release move is good, right? Particularly the tender-hearted one, but I wonder if we get the chance for that to come into play, but then have it also be an opportunity for Pearl to learn a little bit, right?
Yeah. I can certainly set up an opportunity for her to be tender-hearted. I think that's not difficult, and then we can build out from there in terms of growth. And finally, Jim, anything?
soft on the inside, man. That's what I'm talking about. So when we created Checkpoint Midnight, we put an emergency room in Checkpoint Midnight. So, Alan, fuck us up. Fuck us up. Like, you know, like have us be like hauled in there, like, you know, I've got his arm
in pieces.
I've got his arm wrapped in a towel, you know, like this is the opportunity for some like crazy bonkers Frankenstein style stuff to happen here. So
fine.
Yeah.
I will try to do less Le Carre and more Jason Bourne.
Yeah, when we put an emergency room in there, I think we are saying we would like to see that emergency room get used.
Yeah, fair point. Okay, right. Thanks, folks. Really nice session. Good to be back in the groove. I'll see you same time next week.
Which is 8 a.m. my time.
Oh, is it? It's clearly earlier than you thought it was.
So yes, yeah, no. Now I know. So sorry about that, everybody.
I'll wave bye-bye while I end the broadcast.
All right.